Hey, everybody. This is Space Marine Steve. You may recognize me from Play on Tabletop, and I am here sitting on the command deck of Hyperspace Hobbies with my good friend Ian to my left and my good friend Ian to my further left. And we...
So many Ians.
There's so many... Did I say Ian on both?
No, you
hit it.
You
Did
hit it
Did I
dead
hit it
on
right? Did I hit it
People
right
that
on...
I've never truly liked.
Did I say Mike? Did I say
No,
Ian
you
twice?
said Ian.
I
But
say
I'm a
Ian
man so
twice?
nice, you say it twice. This is our good friend, Ian. Mike. Damn it.
Damn it.
It's only the most common male name for the
Yeah,
last 40
Ian.
years.
Yeah.
Mike, damn it. Sorry. I am, of course, Space Marine Steve. You may recognize me from Play on Tabletop. And then sitting to my left here is my
Mike.
good friend Ian.
Mhm.
Right? And then over there on my further left is my good friend Mike. And we are here on the bridge of Hyperspace Hobbies. And we are, of course, the heroes from Hyperspace. And we're going to talk you going to Las Vegas. That's what we're going to talk.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't believe you guys aren't going this year.
I know, but I gotta, teach the children and whatever.
No, you got to get learned.
I gotta-
Exercise that head.
Yeah, I
meat.
gotta right here. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, because I'm doing my master's right now. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
But
And we're all very proud of you, Steve.
Yeah, I know.
The thing is, if you neglect to teach the children, some of those children will end up in Vegas.
That's true.
Do you think when you become a master, you'll be like the masters of the universe and you just swing your sword above your head and call on the power of Grayskull?
I mean, maybe. I have considered though having the children refer to me as Master Wilhite. So you are going to LVO and you're competing in the champs, right?
Yes,
The
absolutely.
LVO champs. So for those of us that might not know, the Las Vegas Open is the largest 40K tournament in the world, and I know the last time that I went to the champs, registered they had just shy of 1,000 players, I believe. So this year, I believe is a little bit smaller. They're still recovering from COVID, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that they opened up a whole bunch of extra tables.
Yeah, I bet.
More tickets up now, which is good.
Which is great. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. So, but I would garner a guess that it's probably like 700 or 800 people. So easily, right?
Even
so,
over COVID, it was that many.
Oh yeah.
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 'Cause
So it's
last year.
Oh right, yeah, it's last year.
Yeah.
Well, they shrunk the tables, and that was like kind of a
That
thing.
helps. You can fit more
They
in.
can fit so many more
Oh,
people.
yeah,
in, right?
that's
that was
true.
Like, I thought that
Yeah.
was like part of why they were shrinking the tables. Was they were like, you could fit a couple more people in like a friendly gaming stores space, and certainly at LVO we can fit a couple
Absolutely.
hundred more people. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the big thing when you're going to LVO is you need to figure out what you're going to play. It's like,
Yeah.
You got to carry it there, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to spend all this time and money and just if you're going to spend the time, you might as well try and do well, right?
Yeah.
So a big part about that is picking secondaries, which is a thing that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, we are gonna talk about picking secondaries today, because they are like such a huge part of the game, and like when you're playing a match play mission. So we've got the Warzone Nephilim book, which will be used at LVO, I believe, right? So
It should be. So usually LVO is kind of like the send off for
whatever
the
they
mission
have
book,
at them,
right?
yeah, whatever they
Whatever
have
mission
at the
is
time.
out at the time, and then right after that they reset, possibly
Yeah.
even a new edition. We don't know.
Yeah, who knows, right? So, but we are going to talk about choosing secondaries in particular from this book, and how that influences your list, and how that influences your game, and just how it influences everything that you're going to do over the course of that weekend.
Absolutely.
So I guess let's just start. Tell us about what you are kind of choosing to play and why. So like what faction did you really want to bring, and why do you want to bring that faction?
So I play a lot of armies, as you guys know, and I had to kind of narrow it down as to what I wanted to bring to LVO. Obviously, like carrying it with you is a big deal. I play NIDs. I love NIDs. They're one of my first armies, but I've been playing them for so long that half the army is metal. There's no way I'm carrying a bunch of paperweights with me on a plane. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's slung over my shoulder. It's going to be too heavy. I don't care how good they are. I'll play something it's going to be fine. secondarily, it has to be fun. You're going to play 6 games, and they're going to be stressful games because they're going to be high competition games. So the list has to kind of run, right? Like, it can't be so complicated that it's just this huge brain drain.
Yeah.
So that kind of knocks a couple things out, right? So I play Tau, which is a mono-phase army, essentially. They really only function in the movement and the shooting phase. So shooting is their only damage output. Because of that, I find they either win really big or they lose really big. And that doesn't sound like fun, so I'm not going to bring them.
Yeah.
Eldar, not painted enough, so I'm not bringing them.
Not painted enough.
Easy.
Yeah,
Easy.
Nids, all done, but too heavy. Not
Yeah.
going to bring them.
Yeah.
Grey Knights, I did last season. I brought them to LVO last year, so I don't want to play them again. I want to switch it up and play
Yeah.
something else. Chaos Space Marines just came out, one of my favorite factions, and
Your first faction, actually.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what's going to happen. I've been having lots of fun playing Red Corsairs, which I'm doing in the league right now, which has been a blast. But their big problem, and I've had this conversation with you guys, they don't have their own secondary that scores.
Yeah.
Their secondary is impossible.
Yeah,
it's not
that's-
impossible, but if you want to score anything, it's not.
If your opponent reads what it is, they can counter you
super
pretty
easy.
quick.
What is it?
And a lot of secondaries are
Essentially-
similar to it.
One unit, I think it has to be like infantry or bikers.
Yeah.
They can pick up an objective. No, they don't pick up an objective. They like raid an objective, and then essentially they get their own victory point out of it. They get one victory point if you end the game with them alive and they have it, and they get 3 points if they get back to your zone. Yeah, it's impossible.
Oh.
It might be 4, but it's still impossible.
It's way too difficult.
Yeah.
And you're dedicating a lot to moving up. That's 2 turns. Getting there, doing an action,
coming
I
back.
assume. Okay, now you're on turn 3. And then you got to hope 2 more turns.
It's not going to happen.
It's so many points just to have a unit chance to do that.
Most of the Chaos Space Marine secondaries just don't function well. They sound cool. They're really flavorful. And in fun games, they're totally worth playing, and they're lots of fun. I've done it with most of them. I've tried them. But in a competitive scene, if you're not getting at least 10 points, then you probably should pick a different secondary.
Yeah.
If you want to win, you need to be gauging for that. So fortunately, you guys, we all sat down maybe a week or 2 ago and really talked about it. It was Creations of Bile because their secondary scores, and Word Bearers because their secondary scores.
Right.
Yeah.
And we settled on word bearers.
Yeah. I think they'd be more fun to play, and I think it's more reliable.
Yes, their secondaries, the way we built the list, really lean towards getting them off quickly, so you can even have a turn where you don't get them off, still have an additional turn to do something, and then you get your max points off for it. And we all kind of sat down and thought, well, secondaries are so difficult. How do we let's in a world where potentially your opponent isn't even on the table, you're just playing the game by yourself, can you complete some secondaries that are like not reliant on your opponent being there? Like if you're up against someone you can't score no prisoners, and bring it down is out of the question. If it's like, oh, I score 8 or even less, some of those
then they're not an option. Right?
Yeah, and it's not even an option. What's your fallback?
Yeah.
Right? Assassinate, okay, but maybe that's not one either.
Assassinate can be a trap.
It can be a huge
good
trap.
one, but it can be a real trap because that's a secondary that puts the ball into your opponent's corner. So they can choose whether you really get those points or not.
Essentially,
they could spend time to defend those guys or keep them far away.
Yeah. If your opponent wasn't on the table, could you max out?
Yeah.
Like on the first turn, could you get engage on all quarters? On the second turn, could you get engage on all quarters? Like, third turn, fourth turn, even with losing units and affection by your opponent, all that stuff. Like, how do you actually score points? Because sometimes I'll just rattle off a list and then I'll look at secondaries and go, this isn't going to work.
It doesn't quite work, right? Yeah. That's the problem I'm having with Red Corsairs. They're super fun to play. Stuff's like really fast. They're all over the place, but they just don't always score. Sometimes you just have not good choices.
So we kind of like reverse engineered the list. We looked at secondaries that were potentially
we started
completed ones that we could complete with chaos.
Yeah.
And we took a good look at the chaos units.
Yeah.
And what ones could that could help and do that, and that don't suck. Some of them are like, oh yeah, you can totally play this, and you're like, it's going to be bad.
Yeah. And I think if we're going to talk about like cracking the code of secondaries, then I think like bringing it, reverse engineering it, as Ian said here, is I think probably the best way to do it.
I agree.
So what we did, looking forward to LVO, just to make it hyper clear for everybody, was we, instead of saying, all right, this is the list, what secondaries can it accomplish?
Which is kind of the more the traditional way of building. You
Yeah.
built your list to compete in the game, but now you almost need to build your list to complete secondaries.
Exactly, right? So, and it's not just about creating a list to like, oh, I'm going to, kill my opponent with this list. And sometimes that is the point, but we decided to go, all right, the only game that actually matters exists on the scoreboard. So you can be getting blown off the table, but it doesn't matter if the scoreboard sits in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
So you can technically be tabled and
absolutely
still very much win. So I think, and I've seen games go that way.
I intend
Right?
to.
Yeah, I intend to be tabled and still win. So what we did is we took a quick sift through that book, and instead of going to the list first, we said, all right. What are some secondaries that seem very scoreable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, you want to play Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
So we started...
But not my Thousand Suns.
But not your Thousand Suns.
Because they just wreck my brain. 6 games in a row would be way too much
for you,
thinking.
Yeah, so we wanted also something
The way
simple.
I like playing them.
Yeah, and we wanted something simple.
Yes.
So we took a look through there. Do you remember what it's called? The word bearer's secondary?
Exalt the gods.
Exalt the gods.
It's something like that. Because there's For the Dark Gods, which is the Chaos Space Marine secondary, where you do an action in the dead center of each quadrant.
Yeah, no, this
But
is
this
different.
one, it's almost the same thing, but you do an action 4 times in the middle of the board.
Yeah.
Within 6 inches of the middle of the board.
Yes, and it's a psychic action.
No,
and-
it's just an action.
Oh, it's just an action.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
just an
It's an action, and if a psyker of yours does it, they still get to cast.
If a
even
Master
though-
Possession does it, or a Dark Apostle, so they're
Right, okay.
chaplain, or a unit with a banner,
got
then
it.
it happens immediately.
Yes, banner.
But the chaplain or Dark Apostle and the Master Possession, if they do it, they can still do all of their powers.
Which is incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like all of that is good, right?
Exactly.
The trick is you got to hold the middle.
You got to hold the middle. So then what happens is, so we all took a good look at that, and then we started thinking to ourselves, all right, well, what in the Chaos Space Marine book can actually accomplish this?
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, Dark Apostle, Master of Possession came to mind. Not only are they good units, right, but
They couldn't be better in another list. Like the word bearers juice them up.
yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Right? So you're incentivized to take them, so we may as well take them.
Take them.
Right? And then we thought to ourselves, well, what unit could reliably hold the middle of the board?
What might live?
What might live? And what was it?
Terminators. Terminators and Possessed.
Yep, Terminators and Possessed. Right? So that's exactly what we did. So we put into the list that giant 10-man pack of Terminators. I believe on the Terminators we hucked that relic that's like your -1 to be wounded, right?
No, I put it on the Possessed.
On the Possessed, right, okay.
Because the Terminators already get quite a few buffs from the Apostle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they're tough innately.
They're tough already.
And there's each, so they ignore the first.
They ignore the first damage.
Damage.
They have enough defense. The other 10 needed something to keep them up.
Yeah, okay. And the other ones are also T5 too, which...
And they have their own invuln save.
And they have their own vol save. So that...
Also
okay.
a huge forward threat. Like
Yeah.
forward pushing threat.
They're fast.
If you're
Yeah.
going to kill anything first, it's got to be those Possessed, or the Possessed going to tie you up, and
Which
you're
is
going to
gonna be tough, 'cause
Yeah,
they're
you're going to be
-1
having
to
a
be
bad
wounded.
time.
Yeah. And then, of course, while they're dealing with the Possessed, then your Terminators plus the character is allowed to trundle into the middle of the board, start completing that action for all those points. So we have now, like, I would say, like, what, a quarter of the list probably, or a
Probably
little over
more.
that, a third of the list once you put the
Yeah.
Possessed in there. So between the Possessed, the Terminators, and the characters, I'm going to say we probably have around a third of the list.
Easily.
Right? Easily. Now, a third of the list dedicated to one secondary may feel like a lot, but it's a secondary that's most of the time going to be on an objective, because of 5 of the 9 missions have objectives in the center of the table.
Or close enough.
Or close enough, yeah.
We played a game yesterday, purposefully one of the missions without a central objective. And it did okay.
And it
Yeah.
did okay still.
Yeah.
Okay,
You can
that's
still
excellent.
hold it.
Because you have these blobs on both sides, you can just kind
Kinda
of
put bubble
bully
out.
around. And I think it's... So the word bears secondary, you have to be wholly within 6 to get it off. But if you take Warp Ritual, you can just be within 6. So it gets
So you could use
juicy.
that too, but that one can be denied. So
It
you got to
can
be
be.
kind of careful with that.
Also, that chaplain on a bike, Primaris chaplain on a bike that you got me,
Yeah.
just killed it.
Oh,
bud.
that
killed
guy-
it.
Oh yeah,
He's
Yeah.
so good.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
just
yeah.
thumping possessed left, right, and
Oh
center.
yeah, he was just baseball batting them in half.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Killed like
yeah.
6 of them. Or
It's
something.
awesome,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
hilarious.
Phenomenal. That makes me really happy.
Yeah.
But okay, so back to the matter at hand. We can talk about Space Marine's cresting phase later.
Oh, you
But,
wanna?
Yeah, we can talk about Space Marine's cresting phase. Just push Mike over and start talking about Space Marines.
Just put chaos in front of that. I'm in.
But yeah. So all right. So we've picked this one. So we've now used a third of the power of the list into not only like a defensive, like kind of castle's maybe the wrong word, but like a real forward and central push. So now we have to sift through for more secondaries. So what are some of the other secondaries that we looked at?
So because we're forced to go into the middle with this plan already, Warp Ritual lets you just get pretty much you're gonna get 12 points out of it.
Yeah.
You just have to be within 6 with some of the characters that are already going to be there.
Yeah.
It's pretty reliably going to get you 12 points.
And it
Yeah.
goes off on a 3.
It goes off on a 3, which
Psychic
came
test
up.
on a 3.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was a 4, and then we looked it up.
Like,
But
it's worth
he
a ch-
rolled
it
a
was
3.
check.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it is a 3.
Which is crazy low.
All
So
you
yeah,
got.
it can be denied, but you only need to do it 3 times.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So
Seems like a good choice.
it seems
right?
like a good choice. If there's a lot of characters on your opponent's field, you could take Psychic Interrogate, which is a great one if they
Yeah.
don't have Psychic Defense.
Yeah, totally. So we built part of the list for one secondary, and choosing the second secondary that you would ritually take, instead of being like, all right, well, now I got to bake in a new set of units to accomplish something new, we just looked at what we already had, took a look at some of the secondaries, and saw where the pieces aligned, right? We're going to be in the middle of the table. Okay, if we're already in the middle of the table, what can I achieve while standing there? Warp Ritual can be achieved. You already have the Psychers, which is great, right? Psychic Interrogate, you're going to be in the middle, which means you're going to have reach to most of their characters probably to pull that off if you have to.
Yeah.
So, like, you're allowed to double up, right?
And
Like,
this goes for your LVO list. It goes for any list. Like if you see some of these combos out there and you can reliably go, this doesn't rely on my opponent having 250 models on the table that I can kill and get no prisoner. This is like I'm playing my game. I'm not letting them depict what I'm doing. I'm going to be in the middle of the table. I'm building my list to be in the middle of the table. I might as well double down on something.
The less you let your opponent dictate how you score,
100.
the better
100%.
you're going to do.
Yeah.
Though they have removed a lot of the secondaries that do that well,
like
Yeah.
to the last or whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
which
I
is
w- I wasn't
which was too easy to get off.
Yeah, I
You know,
wasn't a
everybody
fan
took
of
it
to the
at
last.
LVO last year. It was
Yes.
just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to. If you're winning the game, you're just super winning the game.
Which
Yeah.
they then used to, redo the next rule set, and they were like, yeah, this is just too easy to take.
Yeah.
I mean, leaving a unit off the table. I mean, essentially, you could do it with anything, and it works.
Yeah. And it
Just hide it all game.
it also broke like I find sometimes like when I read a secondary, I'm like, I know what they want, but this isn't gonna do that,
Yeah.
right?
Like
Like
this isn't going to work how they think it's supposed to.
yeah, exactly. Or like how they dreamed it would. Like with To the Last, they were like, all right, so if we make them the 3 most expensive units, well, that means that those 3 most expensive units, like we're thinking they're going to gladiator this like crazy. Like they're going to be epic fighting machines and it'll be awesome. So they're thinking narratively in that respect, right? So a model like Guilliman, oh yeah, Guilliman's great for To the Last, right? Awesome. Well, nope, that's not actually what took place. What took place was things like, all right, well, I can definitely 15 To the Last if I make every single unit in my army 110 points, and then this 150-point character is going to hide here for the whole game. And then, well, funny enough, this unit that I can combat squad, one half of them is going to be over in
The
reserves.
combat squad thing was dumb.
Yeah.
Right?
Luckily, we don't have to worry about that.
We don't have to
anymore.
worry about that anymore. But
Gamer's going to game. We're always going to find a way.
we're always going to find a way. So I'm glad they removed those things.
But what we kind of ended up looking at with your current model set as well, which is important, and it's already painted because everybody knows how much you don't enjoy
It's
the
not my
painting
favorite.
aspect.
I did finish this Word Bearers list painted and based, all ready for Steve's tournament on the 27th. I did
Yeah.
it last
Awesome.
night.
Awesome.
Did it
So what we settled on was 2 Helldrakes because it gets you engaged right off the bat.
Because it gives me engage as an option.
Is an option.
Yeah.
And also they're like a forward pushing distraction unit. So all of a sudden if 2 Helldrakes are in your face and you've also got these Terminators in the middle and these forward moving this big pack of -1 to wound possessed, it is a bit of a threat saturation kind of
Where
thing
do you
going
go,
on. Where do
right?
you go? Yeah.
The
Where do
move
you
blocking
go
option.
and what do you shoot at? Because you might shoot those Helldrakes and not do it, and you might think I'm going to shoot it at the possessed, and the Helldrakes are still there. So it was 2 Helldrakes, and then it was 2 Venom Crawlers,
Yeah,
which
which-
are also incredibly fast and incredibly cheap.
And Steve really pushed for them because they're very fast and
Yeah.
they're very cost efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Which is good. Like the reason, and I did push for those, especially because, so to rewind just slightly, when we were thinking about, all right, well, what are some other secondaries that we could build this list to do? Because at this point in time, we still only have a third of the list, right? We don't actually have the other 2/3 of the list written down. So we did the exact same thing. We went to the book and we get, all right, well, what is achievable, right? Okay, engage in all fronts. Okay, what units that are 1 in your collection and 2 could actually accomplish this quickly? Ian's goes 2 Helldrakes, right? So Ian says 2 Helldrakes, which I totally agree. For all the reasons he said, they're great distraction units, right? They can do a little bit of damage. Like you said,
can
you
keep
can
them in
move
the
block.
air and then have them go.
That's what,
And then you still
that's
get
what I've
engage.
done for 2 games so far is you just fly them up the table. You score 3 points. You hopefully neither of them die. They turn and then fly across and do 3 again.
Yeah, look at that.
And by
Bam.
then you're
6 points.
And by
Yeah.
then the Venom Crawlers have moved far enough forward and probably made a charge against a unit that you don't want to charge them against a unit that's like they're actually going to be a problem. You want to charge them against a unit that they're essentially
Yeah.
just going to get socked in. And then once they're there, then they're always just getting that engage.
So I
Same
have
with the Helldrakes. You could turn them into hover mode and have them charge like a tank in the back.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
you lock it in or tag a couple units and somebody thinks that they're brave and going to fight it, you can just get bogged down in their back end and just essentially just hit them with gum.
Yeah. So to touch on, so the 2 Helldrakes are a great idea. And then to my point about the Venom Crawlers and why I pushed for them for so hard was because I strongly believe that you should try your best to have some kind of plan B, right? Which is kind of where we landed with like the double 10-man units in the for Exalt the Gods, right? Is you got this one and then you're pushing forward with the other. But if hypothetically they were to like your opponent somehow had the firepower to shred through all the possessed, well, you still got these Terminators
And they'll
to
still
protect those
hold
characters.
still hold that center.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the Venom Crawlers, why I pushed for them so hard is, one, they are fast. They also sit in a fast attack slot now,
Yeah.
which is really cool. So they don't crowd slots.
Unless you want fast
Unless you
attacks.
want more fast attacks. But then it's like Raptors. We're not going to get into it. So
Spawn.
Spawn.
That's the,
Right,
that's the one
Spawn.
thing
That's
that makes
the
me
one.
sad. There's no Spawn on the list right now.
right now. So the second part was that, well, let's say they do take the Helldrakes and they start like chewing into them. Some lists could probably down them in a turn, maybe 2 turns. I think is actually a really reliable thing.
I've played 2 test games so far. They've lived through the first turn in both games.
Excellent.
Did
That's all you need,
Did you go first both games?
Yes.
Yep.
which is good.
So I haven't gone second yet.
I think
We
I
should
will-
fabricate that
I
soon.
think you will lose one. Yeah.
yeah.
going second is bad. Bad
But-
for your
I mean,
army.
You'll go half.
It's bad
you'll
for a
half
lot of
the time.
armies. I think
Yeah.
your army is somebody
because I
can
don't really shoot. It's all like movement and being big meat chunky boys. Going first might be ideal,
Yeah.
but you can't count on that, right?
No, you can't count on that. So the reason I really fought for these Venom Crawlers is because, so let's say the Helldrakes both died in like turn 2. By turn 3, both of those Venom Crawlers are probably in some kind of position where they're really starting to pressure the forward objectives. They're able to, even if they have to, like, advance. They have assault weapons. They can still shoot, right? So you can advance. You can snag that engage in all fronts if you actually have to and still keep the points rolling. Even if at the end of the game, all 4 of those are dead, It doesn't matter because by that time you've probably scored at least 12, right? So maybe 10, or like if you did 6 in the first round, and then let's say you pulled off 6 because of the double, another 3 because of the double venom crawlers in the third round. Well, you're at 9, right? Now you just have to eke out 2 points between turn 4 and 5, and look at that, there's over 10, and it's great.
Yeah.
So I felt like we had a really good beat on what that was going to be, and that's another third of the list, right? So now we have to think about your last secondary.
So this is always the most difficult secondary. Anytime you're trying to pick them, we all know. You're looking through the book. First one's easy. Second one is usually kind of a gimme, and then your third one is always quite difficult.
Oh shit! Sorry, I didn't lick it.
Yeah, that's all good. Anyways, the third one's always really difficult is what I'm trying to say. But the best thing you can do if you're prepping with secondaries, which is what we were doing and what we definitely suggest everyone do,
my fault,
is have some fallbacks, right? Like have a few ideas about what your army can do. You can't just rely on the fact that your army is going to have, or you're going to fight against someone with a lot of tanks. Just stick your whole hand in there already. And bring it down is not going to be always a choice. No prisoners is not always going to be a choice. But they're both good secondaries if you come against an army that has a lot of those things to kill.
Yeah.
Right? We just talked about Assassinate can be a trap. But it's still a good secondary if they have 5 characters, even if they have 4 characters. But they're weak characters that you might actually get your hands on. Right?
Yeah, totally.
And another avenue that we didn't actually intend when we were making that list is your army poses the same problems. Like, it's not easy to score against. You're putting a lot of vehicles on the table that are going to be in your opponent's face that they have to essentially kill, or you win, but not enough to bring it down. You've got a lot of meat on the table. Not quite 100 wounds, essentially. Like, if somebody gets every last thing, they're going to go over 100, but that's going to be pretty freaking tough.
If they've
with all those units, and then you only have 3 characters, so you're not really giving up a lot of those easy kind of
by
things.
Accident,
Yeah, we stumbled upon it, and as soon as we saw the list, when I played, when we were tallying up points, and I was picking my secondaries, I was like, "Well, bring it down sucks. I guess I'm going to take no prisoners, but that sucks too because you've got -1 to wound guys and Terminators that are impossible to kill, and blah, blah, a whole bunch of different stuff like that." And then 2 units of cultists are going to be hiding in the back and stuff. Yeah. So it was well designed accidentally, which is another way you can design your lists is to counter the current secondaries. Make it so you're not easy to score against. Don't put only boots on the ground. Don't put only vehicles on the ground. A lot of armies have troubles doing those sorts of things, like play minimal characters if you're worried about giving up on Assassinate. There's plenty of different things that you can do to counter secondary your opponent. Make their life harder. If they haven't done all the homework and made a game plan and said, I'm taking these 3 on the condition that one of these other ones isn't way easier to pick up. And then they look at your list, they'll go, uh-oh, I don't have an easy option.
I don't have good choices.
Yep, giving me nothing easy.
An interesting thing that you said there, and it's making me think. You said, well, we did this accidentally, and we did do that accidentally. It wasn't a part of our overall goal. We sat down to kind of group brainstorm this list. However, what I would say is because there have been times where I've gone to tournaments and I have put a list on the table that I designed to just, crush certain secondaries. I had a very specific battle plan. And my opponent would look at me and go, oh, man, you really built your list anti-secondaries, didn't you? And I would go, no. Oh, I guess so. And I think that really the reason it's like that is not because of some kind of accident. I think it's just good list building ideas and strategies and a process. We didn't take anything unnecessary. We only took what we needed. Right? We said, we need to accomplish this secondary. Well, what do we need to accomplish that? We didn't go, great, we have everything we need, plus we're jamming in this dope character we found. That was not what happened. We said, all right, we got what we need. Let's move along.
Yeah, it's all meat, no potatoes.
All meat, no potatoes,
yeah, which is
right?
fantastic. And I think if anybody's out there struggling with list development and they're looking at certain things like I'm losing my games by a couple points. What can I potentially do to try to eke my way into a victory? Read those secondaries. Go over them a bunch. When you're reading them, try to think of units that you potentially own that can accomplish them. Like I take a land speeder and or even two, just because it's like, oh well, if engage is on the table, you can get this right away. And
Speed is good.
yeah, and your opponent just goes, well, I don't want to shoot that thing because there's huge monsters on the table. I don't want to take care of this stupid little thing that flies and does practically nothing. Like those little annoying units can just make the world in difference in points.
Yeah, 100%.
And if your opponent shoots at it, then they're not shooting at something else, and hopefully they're tough enough to soak up enough damage that they overcommit.
Yeah. And I think that it's just indicative of good list building. We built the list to do something very specific, right? We built the list, and now too, like the second thing that you said was, aside from saying we had it like we did this by accident, the second part was, all right, well, my opponent's looking at my list going like, oh man, like no prisoners is no good. Bring it down is no good. Assassinate's no good.
No prisoners is okay.
Is okay. Yeah.
But it's almost a trap in itself.
It is.
It's almost a trap in itself. So they're looking at your list going like, this is no good. This is no good. This is no good. And what's awesome is that you will never fall into that trap. You walk up to every table and doesn't matter what your opponent is playing because you can look down at your list and go, I know what I'm taking.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever played a list in 9th edition so far that I had so many options for secondaries. Usually I feel locked in.
Yeah.
But with this list, because there's two kind of gimmies with the Warp Ritual and the Exalted Gods.
Which we built towards.
Exactly. I'm free to pick my third one instead of like picking one that's okay and then one that's sort of okay and then a third one that I have no idea what to pick because they're all crap.
Yeah. And this is exactly what happens when you sit and you make a plan and you stick to the plan, right? You build to the plan. It's like, there's no better way to do it. So I think we only have a little bit of time left. And I know time flies when you're talking about secondaries.
Been an hour already?
Almost. Almost. We're clocking close to almost 40 minutes, probably almost 30, 35. Oh, okay. So I was thinking we would do a little game here.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. So
play a game.
Here's what we're gonna do. We are going to grab that book. We're gonna pick one random secondary, and we are going to do what we did with Mike on that secondary.
Okay. Like, how are we going to build towards
How are we going to build towards that? Regardless of how good it is.
What army?
I don't know yet. Which one of ours? Space Marines is fairly good. We could do Chaos.
We could just do the basic secondaries.
We could do but we have to choose an army to build towards with it, though.
Sure, but we could all just shout out a thing.
Yeah,
you're the one making this contest, so you make up the rules.
Okay. Well, how about we just each make a plan based on our own?
Pick a random secondary.
Yeah, pick a random secondary and let's just make it happen.
All of them.
From all of them, you pick one of the ones from the basic.
Look
to the generic. Do the generic ones.
Generic. Yeah. Stick to the generic ones.
Yeah, stick to the generic ones, and then we can pick whatever we want.
Behind enemy lines.
Here we go. Behind enemy lines.
I love this secondary, by the way. It can be very difficult to pull off, but if you build towards it, it is totally doable.
Oh yeah. So can you read the secondary out?
I will read behind enemy lines. Score 2 victory points at the end of your turn if one unit from your army, excluding aircraft, is wholly within your opponent's deployment zone.
Got it.
Score 4 victory points at the end of your turn instead if 2 or more units from your army, excluding aircraft, are wholly within your opponent's deployment zone.
It's pretty simple.
4 points.
Get in your opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah, which can sometimes be much easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, but there's ways to build towards it.
Oh, 100%.
Like certain armies have options that they can slingshot units on the first turn and maybe make a charge to get into your opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah.
Like Grey Knights and their Gate of Infinity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or Veil of Darkness.
From
Necrons.
Yeah.
And you throw a big unit of Lich Guard forward and they make that charge, you now have a unit in their zone on the first turn,
Even if you have 2 units with Infiltrate, or a drop pod with guys getting out, or an Impulsor where you move the Impulsor and then the guys advance out of the Impulsor. Impulsor moves 14.
Yeah.
Like you can almost clear that gap and get into your opponent's deployment zone.
Yeah. So there's lots of options. So let's all think for a second. So maybe, Mike, you take Chaos Space Marines because you're doing it at LVO.
Well, okay. So the greasiest thing you can do for Chaos Space Marines is take one of those Charybdis drop pods.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's so bad, but I'll tell you guys about it. So if you want to get in your opponent's deployment zone on turn 1, you take the Charybdis drop pod. I'm not even sure I'm saying it right, but it lands. You get a unit out, whatever you desire that combat unit to be, and a Master of Possession. Ideally, you want a unit that it's at least 2 wound guys, because if it's 3, this will be a little bit more difficult. But the Master of Possession has an ability that when he does a Psychic Power, he can stab a core unit or himself and do D3 wounds to it.
Oh yes, yeah.
So he can stab that unit that just got out of the drop pod in the psychic phase,
Right.
kill one of the guys, res one of the guys, and put him that much closer to the enemy. So now
Yeah.
you're making like a 7-inch charge.
Yeah.
It's
Hilarious.
so greasy.
That's really
Personally, I think
greasy.
they need to actually fact it that you can't do it.
Yeah.
But currently, as rule is written,
That is how that
you
functions.
can.
Yeah.
So that unit is going to make probably a 7 or 6-inch charge out of a drop pod on the first turn, landing you in the opponent's deployment zone.
Nice.
And you could charge with the drop pod as well because the Cryptus
yeah.
drop pod moves. So you could get 2 in
Yeah.
the in the
It does
zone
do
on
that.
the first turn.
Could you imagine the embarrassment of getting like this drop pod like crawling at? Is that what it does?
I
It
think
crawl
it-
or
no,
does
I
it
think it
fly?
flies.
Like,
it
what does
actually
do?
picks itself up and flies.
Okay,
Yeah.
is
It
this the
goes
one
like-
that it's like I've seen on like a flying base?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it
Okay.
comes.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
cool.
on this big
Yeah,
flying
cool.
base.
Yeah.
So, but like, the thing is that that secondary, you only need to do it 3 times because 12 points is great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
And if you like, if the rest of your list is like 2 squads of bikes, and like just some other
Stuff to
just
get up
throwaway units that you could just go like whatever, it's 90 points, just get it out.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So yours is a greasy answer, but it's a
what
good
do you
answer.
want?
What do you want? Yeah. So, but Charybdis Assault Claw totally comes down. Like berserkers get out.
Beautiful.
And then out comes the Master of Possession, stabs a dude. Even if he doesn't get the stabbing and the rezzing like off, like let's say something, because it's not guaranteed,
It's not
right?
guaranteed.
You're still like a 9-inch charge with a reroll. It's not a fantastic percentage, but it's still like, if it's what you want, you have 2 shots at it because the
Yeah.
Berserker's going and the Claw is going,
Yeah.
right? And the Master of Possession, he's going. Like,
I'm not totally sure how many guys
like 20.
it can hold 20. So bring
Yeah.
3 units out.
Yeah,
then.
and just start just charging with all of them. One of them's going to make
One of
it.
them will
like-
make it.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, you just load it up with 5-man units and just sling them at stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and once you're in there, then your opponent's got to be like, oh no, damn it,
Yeah.
right? And the claws flying around, and then the rest of your stuff, like you said,
Hmm?
like throw bikes in there, really push
Yeah,
for it.
if you take Red Corsairs, their bikes can make combat in the first turn if you want.
Throttle up the speed.
Yeah, rattle up the speed, just ratchet it to the max.
Yep.
Okay, great. So, what army would you pick to build that?
I would go. Well, we all know me, Space Marine.
Yeah,
Space Marine. Ian is a Space Marine. I would choose White Scars. Easy. I love White Scars. They've always been like a favorite, their go-to. I whoop ass with White Scars is
Oh,
what
yeah,
I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
They can do this a dozen different ways. You can have that awesome chaplain. Zoom pound fist. He can zoom up. He can advance, which means he's moving 20 inches. He can pop the +2 to charge aura. You can have a drop pod with 2 assault squads in it, or 2 who cares, whatever, 2 units that are going to last, and then they can all try to make a charge and get in there.
Yeah.
So you'd potentially have 3 units because
If he has
he would
the
be on
plume
that.
of the Plains Runner, does he move farther?
he doesn't. Infantry do.
He makes other things move farther.
Yes, yeah. And then you could also have a Rhino with 2 5-man squads in it. You could move the Rhino twice and then disembark after moving,
right.
That
Which-
has gotten
which-
me so many times.
which kills everybody. 'Cause
Yeah.
everyone's like, my back objectives are fine. This stupid Rhino that this guy doesn't even know how to play, he's just got it sitting on the back objective. It's not doing anything. It's not a threat. I don't care about it. And then all of a sudden it goes, zoom, 2 guys disembark. They're OBSEC dudes. They sit on 2 different objectives because they advance after they get out. And then your opponent goes, wow, I just lost my 12-point turn, and now I'm getting a 4.
Yeah.
And then they have to deal with that stuff. So that's an easy one, right? That's an easy one because you can steal objectives and you can also do
Yeah,
that.
which is great. I mean, you may as well double down. If there's an objective, you may as well stand on it.
That's
right?
what they're
If
for.
that's what they're for, and if it's in your opponent's deployment zone, sick,
Mhm.
Yep.
right? Then make that the priority.
And then like you could outflank.
Yeah, 100%.
I like to outflank a couple.
Because White Scars have some outflank. They have
Yeah.
an outflank that you come in any table edge.
It's like the Encircle the Prey Spaceless
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Same deal.
it's called encirclement. The Space Wolf one is called encirclement.
Yeah.
So I would pick
What is it, Steve? What could it
Space
be?
Marine. How many Space Marines?
Oh, come on, just
I don't know.
piggybacking
I
off
know,
me
just-
now.
Yeah. You took it from me. I should have gone first. So I'm going to pick demons. Yeah. I'm going to pick demons. Nobody in the room knows how to play demons, so I'm just going to do it.
No, nobody.
So I'll pick Space Marines, but I'm gonna go less mainstream.
Nobody won a tournament recently with unpainted. With
Yeah.
unpainted army.
Yeah, that was bad. A lot of angry faces in that room.
Yeah.
We can get to that later.
I even said it out loud as I was giving you your first place prize.
Yeah,
I
that
was
was
just like,
rough.
I was just like, it was unpainted. Looking at everyone else.
Everyone else's armies were beautifully painted too. Like there was a Custodes guy that had a just amazingly well painted army. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of the Chaos guy had great army painted too. Yeah.
Yeah. But
winning,
you took that first place prize. And you,
30 points down.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so back to my answer. I'm gonna pick Raven Guard, and I'm gonna go a little off the beaten path.
You beat it.
So I'm gonna do it. So yeah, wow. So I'm gonna pick Phobos Marines in particular, Incursors and Infiltrators, because they do have some cool interactions with Raven Guard, and because all of them, including their characters, can infiltrate. So aside from Reavers are the only ones that don't, but they do get the grapnel launchers, which allows them to walk off the edge of the table. They also get you. You can give them the jetpacks or the jump, the
deep
fins,
strike.
the little deep strikes. If you want that, you can do that.
They look really cool.
They do look dope. They all look dope. Yeah, they look awesome. So, but Incursors, they're close combat ones, but Infiltrators are really where the money is. But they can all forward deploy. So, get really aggressive and forward deploy with them. Start being really cagey with their deployment. Make sure they live through that first turn and just start running in there. But in particular, the use of guerrilla tactics, I think, is what it's really all about. So it's a 1 CP strat in Space Marines. If you have Phobos Marines that are within 6 inches of the table edge, you can pull them into strategic reserves. How this would kind of function would be like you'd use some of your deep striking or like infiltrating units, so like Incursors up front. You guard your backfield for the first couple of turns of the game with like infiltrators, and then late game you piece out and to guarantee the continuous score, right? Because that's going to be the trick, is the continuous score.
Any secondary you can get that has a chance to score 4 points in one turn, or 5 if you're wildly lucky.
It's a big deal.
That's a golden secondary.
Yeah, golden.
Immediately.
100%. So, that would be how I would tackle it. Little off the beaten path. Plus, Raven Guard have that really cool stranglehold stratagem that is like, all your strats cost 1 extra, sucka, because I've got Phobos on the table.
Those are just mean.
Yeah, they're mean, but it's only on like a 5. It's not really worth it, but it's still hilarious.
Okay, fair enough.
Still hilarious. I don't know if I would suggest that. It has nothing to do with the secondaries. I just wanted to say it out loud. But so we've just kind of completed the game. So that game that we played there just proves that if you sit down and you really think about it, right, we have some evidence to suggest that, you can put a list together just based on what secondaries are you going to try to accomplish.
Honestly, I think that's ideal.
Yeah.
To work backwards.
Yeah.
Start with the secondaries. What secondaries am I going to be able to complete? And maybe I want a couple, 3, 4 additional options for certain scenarios.
Yeah.
But you need to be able to do certain ones and score high.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like new to the game, you don't have huge libraries of an army, and you're thinking, I'd like to buy a new unit for my army. I don't know what to get. Well, you might want to take a look in here to figure out something that you might be able to find a unit that will assist you in staying competitive or having the upper edge in just like a friendly game.
Yeah.
There's plenty of things you can do.
Tons of it.
Buy 5 infiltrators.
Do it.
Yeah.
5 whole infiltrators.
As someone who doesn't play Space Marines, they're an absolute thorn in my side.
Yeah,
every
it
game.
has nothing to do with objectives. Mike just hates them because we play them
just
well.
hates them.
No, I don't hate them. I envy them.
I envy them. They do have. I am very happy about that particular unit and the Phobos captain, because he has it too. The Omni Scrambler. It What I love about it is truly a unique rule that is not emulated in any other faction.
Alpha Legion can do it for 2 command points.
That's not
units.
the same
But-
as like a single unit that has it.
Yeah, it's such a strong ability, stopping anything from coming in reserves within 12 inches.
But I
just
understand what you're saying when you're like, oh, this unit's really cool, it's super unique, and then every army after that codex
There's a copy of it.
gets a unit that has that thing,
Yeah.
and you go, oh, okay, it's
Yeah.
less unique, and then you start looking at all the codex and going, well, all the armies like essentially have the same toolbox, just
Yeah.
with different kind of
Yeah.
brands.
Or like some of them just do it hilariously better than yours does it for some reason. Like
And
how
cheaper.
and cheaper. Like somehow like Space Marines right now, and I'm just venting. But Space Marines, like when they first got transhuman, and everyone was like, "Oh, transhuman." It's only on 1 unit, and it costs command points. There's definitely other armies that are like, "My whole army is transhuman, all game long."
Fortunately, they fixed that with NIDS.
Luckily, they fixed that. Yeah,
which is
thankfully.
good.
But that's true, right? Like even Space Marines, like the Dark Angels, like the all the Terminators, you're like, oh, they're all just
Aren't they
transhuman.
OBSEC too?
Yeah,
Yeah, they've
You're
got
like-
they've got the best Terminator.
yeah, they do have the best.
But they're not
Terminators.
doing that well right
No,
now.
they're not. But it's still just it's just an interesting thing that happens. Someone gets something cool, and then eventually other people get better versions of it. But yeah, so that was kind of completes our secondaries exercise. Do you feel ready for LVO?
No, not at all.
Excellent.
Not even a little. Not if I want to do well.
Have a great night, folks.
No, I'm excited. I haven't got to go to an actual tournament basically all year since LVO in January.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to finally go to another event that you're putting on the 27th. And,
Yeah.
I'm going to test it out then.
Good.
I've gotten 2 games in so far. I've done a little bit of tweaking here and there. And basically, the tournament that I'm going to play is going to decide whether it's going to function or not.
Good.
There's, I think, 3 back-to-back games in a competitive
Yeah,
environment.
it's a
will
really
be
good test.
Good idea whether it will perform or it will just get crushed.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think it's going to get crushed in the 2 games I've played. It's gone okay.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you never know.
yeah,
And I would totally show up to that tournament on the 27th, but my demons aren't painted.
And with that, and with that, thank you all so much for joining us. This was a great talk, and we're going to be documenting more of Mike's road to LVO.
Yeah.
So our next episode will be talking maybe I don't know about what yet. We're going to talk, but we're just going to talk about you going to this tournament. This is a big event, and so I think it should be properly dissected, right?
we'll have a lot of data from it, right?
Oh, we
we'll
totally
be able
will.
to really talk about how things went.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited to hear how this tournament goes. I'll be able to
You'll
see
be
it because
there.
I'll be there. But I'm excited to see how this tournament goes for the lists and what kind of changes and edits we can make. Maybe we can talk about editing lists later on. And if you have any suggestions for things for us to talk about, either on Mike's Road to LVO or just things that you want to hear us kind of blabber about, throw it down in the comment section. Additionally, tap that like button, hit the subscribe word, and from all of us here at Hyperspace Hobbies, good night, my friends.
Yeah, blue kiss.